and thus cause waves and so forth, and then subside as some of those gases and other materials find ways to relieve the pressure. It won't be a continuous thing leading to a sudden sharp crack. I believe it'll be a series of events, probably gaining in importance, very much like we saw with St. Helens, where we had early steaming all the way up through to the final kablooey.
Does that indicate with this expansion that there's going to be less ground surface area than now, or?
No, larger.
Oh, okay, larger.
Okay, if you go all the way back to where Earth was, basically it was a plasma ball in space-time that decided to create some matter and start plastering itself with matter and grew itself into a planet. And at one point, all of the planet was all solid material, except for maybe one little tiny lake. And then that it kept growing and growing and growing and kept growing more lake material, and eventually the lakes became the ocean. And we now have a preponderance on the surface anyway of the lighter material, which is the water. And all of the lighter material wants to rise to the surface, so we'll see a lot more of that. But again, it's not going to be the as people expect. When the plate cracks in the Pacific, we may actually even see new lands appear, because it may be of such a level that volcanoes and stuff that are just percolating now will suddenly really rush up. Sort of makes sense? I mean, they'll get a big push. It won't be a permanent state. It might lead to a lot of volcanism of a temporary nature and the formation of some new property out there. I wouldn't want to homestead it right away, though.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I've got one last piece here, and I'll let someone else speak with you. You mentioned associates such as Igor having no plans of hitting the water. Do you have any advice or hints from the reports on a better way to manage that scenario?
There is the issue of the radiation, which has to be dealt with practically and in a pragmatic matter. We're seeing a lot of suppression of anybody who wants to put out how bad the radiation levels are anywhere in the northern hemisphere. And it has to be acknowledged that they're not anywhere near as bad south of the equator. So now Igor here, he's got a plan that makes sense given where he's at, and he's looking at southeast Alaska. And the reason he's looking up there has to do with ocean flows, the jet stream flow, and how most of the radiation at this point appears to be bounded by 30 degrees to about 50 degrees, and more of it actually being shoved up into Canada at the moment than is hitting the U.S. So his idea is, to some, and has some merit, is that the closer you are to the North Pole, the greater the chance you'll have less concentrated radiation. And it may be that that's true and still meaningless in the sense if it becomes too radioactive down in the northern hemisphere in total, then it won't make any difference. It'll still be fatal levels, perhaps that high. We don't know how bad it's going to get with Fukushima. The rock structure underneath the next volcanic layer that it's got to melt through will pretty much tell the tale. And so we're going to keep an eye on the Fukushima outfall in terms of whether it gets steam or white smoke or whatever. But Igor's plan makes sense. He really investigated the Rockies. He's not a water guy. He's inland actually now even. And he likes caves, and he's got a good cave situation where he's at now, but he's got a bad political situation because he's caught near the Chinese city that will be in Idaho, and also the theoretical allocation of land to China in Washington State and so on. And so there's all these political things that have got him a little bit weirded out, and so he just wanted to be a little bit more isolated. And he chose Southeast Alaska. Now we've got a number of other individuals that we know that have just opted away from the northern hemisphere. Now let's also divert real quick back to boats for a second. One of the things that one might want to keep an eye on as a regular human would be the movement of the mega yachts around the planet, because the mega yachts, of course, are tied to the mega wealthy, and the 1% who own everything on the planet, including us, or so they say, would do things early and take care of themselves and so on. And so it's curious that for the first time ever here in the Northwest, we've had a number of mega yachts dock in the last few weeks. This is very curious because the mega yachts that are docking up here, sailboats and motor yachts, should not be here this time of the year because it's not our good cruising time. In fact, it's nearly the end of the season, and we're already starting to get fall-like weather up here, even though it's not even the middle of August. And I actually spent a number of hours today getting my heating system all spiffed up for winter because I can feel it in the air when I get up in the morning. So I find it very curious that we're seeing a number of these very large yachts make splashes as they come on into Seattle and environs and stock up before heading north. And it's curiouser and curiouser with each new mega yacht. We're talking 190 footers. We're talking boats with masts that are 180 feet high and motor yachts that are 200 feet long. I mean, that's a battleship in my opinion. And these guys are here now in August. I might believe it if it was March. It might make more sense in a cruising sense of the word. But and the collection of them, it just kind of begs the question of what's up.
That's true.
Interesting.
Thank you, Cliff.
Sure.
Is there any indication where they're headed?
Yeah, they're all taking what we call the Inland Passage and scooting up out of the Washington waters up into B.C. And that's the leading into the area of the what we call the Haida Gwaii, otherwise known to by their slave name as the Queen Charlotte's Islands. The aristocrats named all of the sounds and bays up here after themselves. So a lot of us prefer to use the Salish names. But they're heading up into this area from Desolation Sound north. And what's really funny, I mean quite odd, given our weather patterns and everything, it's against the flow. You know, if you were in Desolation Sound in that region right now, you would see that all the cruising boats, all the 40 and 50 footers and the 30 footers and so forth, they're all heading south because
right.
the weather is turning. So this is, and there's nothing up there. There's no events or any reason for this to occur.
Maybe
that
it's
I'd find anyway.
Spot.
Maybe it's which?
A wintering spot?
I don't mean to laugh, but we don't have an official hurricane season up here. We have winter, and no. I mean, I could do it with a small boat, but it would be very dangerous in the rocky coastland of British Columbia to be wandering around, so to speak, and trying to do cruising in some of these bays with large boats in the winter because of the tidal actions we have up here, as well as the storms. I mean, it's quite brutal. There's our fishing fleets out here. They're the most dangerous occupations on the planet because of the weather we have to face. So it just doesn't make sense that they're up here just as that weather is starting to break.
Thanks, Chipper. Thanks, Cliff. Okay, before we close the interview, we just have one more final question in regards to probably the most important thing in your data, since you saw it all the way to 1997 of the sun disease. You did a special with Jeff Rentz on the solar issues and a step-by-step expectation of what the solar issues, how it could ramp up in these coming years. I was wondering if there was anything else you wanted to say in regards to how, in terms of what you expected with the solar issues and when you think the biggest impact would hit, especially as you mentioned in the last Suzanne Toro interview, that May to March of next year would probably be the most intensive eventful period of our time.
March of 2012 to May of 2013 is undoubtedly going to be the peak relative to our data. It's always pointed to that. Our data sets have indicated in the past that some of the earlier effects may happen as early as fall of this year. So it's curious that the sun and the Elenin and all the comets and all of this is coming together with one of our crashcades that is also had been previously tied to the Terra data and Space Coast parts. So I'm actually really expecting that maybe Patrick Garrell's understanding of the sun will be backed up by reality, and that the sun itself will express itself in a way we've never seen before in October. And that may also account for some of the language we're seeing about what's going to come in March of next year. March of next year is the last building tension peak, and settles down to the floor by May of next year, and then we have all these little things. But by peak, I mean something that's noteworthy. So we're in the soup now, especially from October onward. Solar stuff needs to be taken into account. You should get sunglasses, and have your plans made and ready to go by this October. Should we get the disruptions even at the electrical grid level, those will be quite disturbing. So, but other than that, we don't have any new data. It has been, other than what the sun is doing, and I've been following that religiously almost. I get up every morning and check stereo A, stereo B, and see what's going on in all the sun observatories just to stay current, because it is changing very rapidly. Never thought I'd live to see that, I mean, when you're born on this planet, and in my case, and you live through the 50s and 60s, there are some things you take for granted, that the sun is one of those stable constants, and how little we realized,
Yes, like they said, the future's so bright, we better wear shades.
There you go. There you go.
Chipper wanted to say a poem before we ended. Chipper.
Chipper's off, I think.
Hello, Chipper. Chipper.
Yeah, I guess you can't talk into a muted mic very easily. And then turn it this way. Character, emotion, action is all contained within an it. Obviously imitative in concerted rhythmic grip. However else could my eyelash out with viscous wit to snare a formative reaction as eye moves about its ship, where soiled feet and ragged hands come into solid play, lost in a maelstrom, whipped into froth just past a quay, eerily seduced retreadings of what some dismiss as clay, intent on finding reasons to take home a sailor's pay. And like this, the thing is spinning in formation, flying into heady squalls of assorted natures, and may depend on insides of some wall with which to cut the rest of it into just the right size ball to take away from in the game and head back down the hall. Namaste.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you for your time tonight, Cliff. As the poet Percy Shelley wrote in his masterpiece Ozymandias, it is inevitable that civilizations fall, just as inevitable that everyone alive today will die. So it's not the length of the life that lived, but the way they lived those precious moments in history, what they did, who they became. And during those times of great change, some people need guidance, inspiration, direction, a spark. Your work to many has been that spark, that direction, that inspiration. And with that, you may have just made all the difference. On behalf of Fox and all the members of the WebWatt Forum, thank you, Cliff. May you and your family have many pies to come.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Namaste, Cliff.
Namaste.
This has been great.
Thanks a lot, Cliff.
Thank you, guys. We'll do it again.
Okay, thanks.